is the one true Omni Gamer Boss Bronze.
This is True Backlash. And Blue.
And today, we're talking about X-Men, Days of Future Past. Due to popular demand, because nice quick reviews are nice and quick, we are going to keep this as nice and quick as possible. But I'd like to make my first statement. It's good how things go full circle, you know? For the original X-Men movie, I enjoyed myself. I really did. But you know what? It was what it was. Just cheap fun at the movies. Never did I figure that this latest incarnation of the X-Men would be such a gripping drama as it is. But shoot, I am flabbergasted. But enough about my opening statements. Story, characters, now.
Okay, so in the dystopia future, yes, this is every movie, almost every other movie starting title ever. In this way, this involves the X-Men. Those who know the Days of Future's Past storyline from either the comics or the 90s cartoon show, I'm not spoiling a lot here. But long story short here, dystopian future, they need to send Wolverine back to fix it with the help of Kitty Pryde, who has time-traveling powers for some reason. And instead of taking Wolverine all the way back in time, they're projecting him into the consciousness of his younger self. So young Wolverine, so find Charles Xavier and Magneto, get them the team together to stop badness from happening. They need to go on a mission, which I don't want to spoil what it is, but because if they don't do this, ultimately, the Sentinels created by Boulevard Trask, aka Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, will usher in a new era of danger for the X-Men.
Yeah, as stories go, you know what? It sounds crazy, but they make it work on the screen. Everything was fluent, it's easy to follow, you kind of relate to the characters, which I shall be talking about now, which are pretty darn fleshed out. Of course, somehow this became the Wolverine show starring Wolverine and everybody else, but everyone else do have their parts to play, and they play them very well.
Well, just to let you know, if you're a fan of the characters from X-Men First Class or anyone from the Wolverine sequels, prepare to be disappointed. Most of them aren't here.
Oh, you mean the First Class?
The First Class and Weapon X and anyone from Japan and blah 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 blah.
Well, you know, continuity. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that? But the characters that do here do make an impact. Mystique returns as the femme fatale who keeps changing shape.
This time played by Jennifer Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Magneto also returns, the young and the original, from the first movie to First Class.
By old Sir Ian McKellen, young Michael Fassbender.
And of course, Professor X, played by the magnanimous, glorious Captain John Luck Pickard. I mean, Patrick Stewart.
And a young voice done by James McAvoy.
And B. Stevens shows up, if you can believe it, played by
Nicholas Holdman. I have to look it up.
And what's his name?
It was Nicholas Hoult.
Hoult. Get Hoult.
Get out.
Get Hoult. Hoult. Dang spot. Hoult.
And let me see.
What's his name? Who played Fraser Crane? Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer.
Was he in this one?
Yes, at the very end.
At the very end.
Well, and also playing supportive roles is Halle Berry as Storm, Daniel Cutmore as Colossus, Ellen Page as Kitty Pryde, Sean Ashmore as Iceman, and they all return from their previous movies, and Omar Sy, who is new, plays Bishop, and then a couple of others, including Warpath, the Native American superhuman, the other time traveling mutant Blink, who does teleports, and Sunspot, who instead of having power coming from the energy of the sun and fighting powers with super strength, apparently he's the Human Torch in this movie because you don't see the sunlight in the future.
Do you remember the guy's name who actually played Blink?
The girl's name to play Blink?
Oh yeah, the girl's name who played Blink.
It's Fan something.
Fan Bing Bing.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the credits.
How about that?
These crazy Hollywood types.
That's pretty cool. Fan Bing Bing plays Blink.
So, Blue, what did you think about the characters? How did they touch you in this piece of work?
Well, I actually like the fact that they did this little flashbacks into the past, as it were. A lot of people got a chance to see what Professor X would have looked like as a younger professor, and what he was into, what was his lifestyle like, what made him who he was, or at least what it appeared to be at that time. I thought because at our time when we came into the movie, we initially came in after just only the first few minutes had passed. So really, we didn't appear to have missed that much, but when we went back and saw that first few minutes, it really made a big, huge difference for me because it had a different type of history. If everything remained the way it was at the time that it took place in the past, then that future or that current staging is the way everything would be. But because of the way things went in the movie, they went back and changed some things. So I think in that whole plot line, I think the role of Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, it was amazing because she got a chance to do so much more. She's an amazing character anyway. In all the X-Men, she's an amazing character, but she got a chance to be more fleshed out. She was more pronounced, and her actual role was expanded so much in this movie. It was like the Wolverine Mystique movie, I guess. And I really liked the way they
I agree
did
with that.
All the characters to me got a chance to at least make cameos, but I think it was really neat how they focused in on her many abilities and her giftings, and even what was going on in her head, and her relationship with Magneto and her relationship with Professor X, both now and then. It was pretty cool.
Kind of a brother-lover sort of scenario.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
I gotta tell you one more other thing. Blue, can you look up the guy who played Quicksilver, because it's Kick-Ass for those who don't know from the movie Kick-Ass. It's Jesse something. I'm just blanking right now.
No, but I think that's right what you're getting ready to say.
But I gotta tell you about Quicksilver. It's a little bit of spoiler alert. He doesn't do much in the movie, but
I disagree.
but let me finish. Let me finish. It's like, say the movie is an ice cream cone. You have the cone, which is the future, the ice cream, which is the past. The cherry is Quicksilver, and it's a delicious, delicious cherry. Every scene he appears in, he steals the show from everybody else. He's that awesome of a character, and he's not wasted. He serves a very good role in the movie. Again, this time I won't spoil, but there was just the right amount of him. Let's put it that way. He was great.
I think you're still diminishing Peter. He's not Quicksilver. They don't name him Quicksilver for the reasons where, I suppose, because he's going to be in the Avengers as Quicksilver.
They call him Peter Maximoff instead of Pietro Maximoff, and they don't even say Maximoff. It's just on his mailbox.
Yeah, when he shows up. But to rework your analogy, he's not the cherry. He is the candy coating around the ice cream. It's a bit hollow, but so tasty. Mm-hmm. He does it to perfection. And you know what? I didn't think that, and I hate to say this, I didn't think Peter Dinklage could make a good Trask. Not because Peter Dinklage is a bad actor, it's that Trask is not a character that you remember from comic continuity, nor the 90s X-Men cartoon, which he was introduced for me. But he played the heck out of that role.
He sure did.
He definitely seemed like a boss character. And, he was the bad guy, but he wasn't your classic style battler. He was more subtle. He was like, do this for the good reasons. He did the wrong things for the right reasons in his own mind, and I can identify from that character.
I actually think you're right. I think it was kind of neat, too, that you got Trask from so many different venues. You've gotten Trask from the comics. You've gotten Trask from even some of the previous X-Men movies and certainly the TV series. But the dinkish characterization of Trask gave you a whole nother side of the villainy. He kind of comes across as almost legitimate. He almost comes across as if, because of the fact that he is really seemingly trying to protect humanity, that you almost could be confused by the fact that this truly is really a bad guy. In essence, and even to the point where it gave you, and I don't want to do this because it's a spoiler, but there was something that toward the end of the very end of the movie that had a mention of the character that kind of justified the fact that he, or I should say solidified the fact that he truly is the bad guy. He's not just a good guy. And you guys probably know what that was. We got a real quick glimpse of it toward the end.
Right.
Well, the thing about the character of Boulevard
Yeah, we
Trask.
gotta wrap it up. It's coming to be too long.
All right. The thing about Boulevard Trask was, first and foremost, spoiler alert, he wasn't a midget in the comics or anywhere else.
No, really?
Really,
Dwarf. I don't think they called it term.
a dwarf, a little person. They had to fit that role for Peter Dinklage. That's one.
But I think he acted in such a way you almost didn't
You
care.
didn't
I mean,
care.
it wasn't even relevant.
It's a trivia thing. But two, in the comics, Boulevard Trask was initially just this. He created the Sentinels, yeah, but he's this initially minor character. Then the 90s X-Men cartoon gave him a bigger role. The X-Men Evolution cartoon gave him a slightly bigger role, but made him evil. And every continuity since has either made him evil or his kids evil. And evil. And this is probably the best I've seen Boulevard Trask as a villain, because in the 90s X-Men cartoon, he was just this kind of meandering person who did what Henry Peter Gyrick told him to do, and was worried when Gyrick took risks and asked, "Who is that?" strapped to a table. when slight spoiler, Trask would be the one strapping mutants to tables.
And if I recall the ending to his enrollment of the 90s X-Men cartoon, he ended up in the jungle for some reason.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So basically, this Trask is a much cooler, much darker, but much more human Trask.
Absolutely.
All right, goods. Now,
Well, I gotta say, they gave me a lot of X-Men for my buck, and I gotta say, more X-Men than I even expected. I love the X-Men franchise. I loved it until Avengers crossed X-Men and the House of X keep making goofy stuff happen to them. I mean, really. But I like the way this was gone. No Gambit in this movie, sadly, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the mutants and all of that. The story was pretty decent for what it was. Not the best story. It ain't gonna crush the Winter Soldier or the Avengers into the ground, but it was a good, linear, well-told story. And along with Peter Dinklage, along with Hugh Jackman, per usual, I think James McAvoy was well acted as younger Professor Xavier. I really think he put his heart into the role, and it showed. And the action, not the best, but not bad.
Question? What was the question?
the good.
Oh, the good. Oh, there's so many goods. I actually like the movie. I think when I go to these kinds of movies, I come with certain expectations, and I actually wasn't let down. I think for my me being just a novice, I come from X-Men from pretty much television and movies. I don't really have the background of backlash with having the history of the comics and having the history of so much more rich background knowledge to what I'm seeing. So me coming in and seeing a lot of these characters, I'm trying to identify who they are and what they're doing. Overall, the main characters, I have them down packed. But even with all of that, I still kind of got, suspense added in looking at them in the past and how they were and how they related to each other. And not to mention getting those little snippets of the current day X-Men and how they were trying to defend, what I don't want to give it away, but all I can say is I enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I liked the roles that Jennifer Lawrence played. I mean, I liked her in the Hunger Games. I think that was the only thing I liked about the Hunger Games was her role. That's the only thing I really liked about the Hunger Games was her role. But she really was a really integral part here. You would almost think she wasn't newly added to the cast. You would think she was long-standing always if she had that role. And I also like the fact that the actual CGI was pretty cool. I mean, you didn't get the effects that you're watching CGI or strings and mirrors. You got a chance to feel like this stuff looks good, and it did.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. In many ways, I like this better than the Winter Soldier. Other ways, I don't. But we'll save that for the bads. I like the drama. It was well told. You know, between Wolverine trying to convince the younger Xavier that hey, stop being a jerk, and get back to work, and dealing with the younger Magneto who is, let's face it, he's just kind of a jerk and a tool, and Mystique, who is a very well-rounded character in his own right, and I do appreciate that sort of thing. She was very impressive. And again, Trask, they all told a very good story from their own point of view, and you could relate to every single one of what they're saying. It was magnanimous, and again, like I said, on the whole, The Winter Soldier was a much better movie, but the Days of Future Past would told a much better story, I think, overall.
I agree. And I have one more good to add. I think they did a really great job with matching up the historical changes. In other words, when they went back in time, they did a really good job with matching up the clothes and the cars and the music and different things of that time. I thought they did a very good job. I caught one or two things that were mismatched where a couple songs I heard really weren't from the time that they were, but pretty much unless you lived through that, you would never pick that up. I think they did a really great job with making the transition in terms of all the props and added things that you saw, even down to the presidents that they did a good job with that. So I like.
I'm not a crook.
One good for me, Nick. Whoever they got to play Nixon, I'll look it up later. He was fantastic.
He did a good job. He did. And you asked Backlash a question earlier. The name of the actual actor who played Quicksilver was Evan Peters.
Jesse must have been for the Avengers movie.
So that's the goods, I guess. Right. Time for the bads. I'll go first. Those Sentinels, oh my goodness. They look like safety robots from the Safety Transformer bot show on the Hub. Those are not intimidating robots. All they're missing is the plastic smile on their face. Oh, even in the climax, where they start going all Terminator on everyone, I'm still not all that intimidated. It's like, ooh, scary. The plastic butts are going to kill me. No, it just didn't work. And also, I hate to disagree with Backlash here, but the CGI was a little muted to me. I mean, it was pretty dark, and, they did what they could. The fight scenes were good, but they could not touch the Winter Soldier. Everything was blowing up. It was frantic. The captain was whop, whop, whop. The Winter Soldier was Black Widow was like the Falcon was all of that. It was like super dynamic, like almost crazy good. But X-Men was all contained in one localized area, and even the future Sentinels, which look much more intimidating, mind you.
Totally day and night.
Yeah, day and night, much more intimidating. They can only do so much with themselves, and everything was so freaking dark in the future. Everything's dark in the evil future. I couldn't take it all in because it was hard seeing who's attacking, what's that, what's going on, who's doing what, where did that come from? It's too freaking dark.
That's true.
And other than that, I don't really have anything bad to say.
Well, let's put it this way. The X-Men, in particular, were wasted potential, and the Sentinels were overused potential. What do I mean by that? Well, you have Storm, who can control the freaking weather. You have Iceman, who in the comics is an Omega-level mutant, means he's really, really, really powerful. And then you have Blink, who could open up all these portals everywhere and misdirect people. And then you have Bishop, who was this super Terminator guy, and they get fairly big roles in the movie. You think Halle Berry must have been paid a lot of money to have such a supporting role, first of all. But they were in the future. They were chilling. They did their thing, but they didn't really stand out. The whole Future Brigade, except for Kitty, Charles, and Magneto, felt kind of pointless until the very climax of the movie. And
I wouldn't say pointless, but they were definitely underpowered. I do agree.
they were definitely underpowered. They it kind of took away from the mystique. I felt like and again, I love the fact there were all these X-Men in there. They might even put my boy Spike from X-Men Evolution in there, but you just like got a passing glance of all these mutants, and it's like someone, a wise person said, this character was here, and they just said, "I'm in the movie," and then the Sentinels. My gosh, the past Sentinels, they did look kind of stupid, okay, but I got the gist. Big imposing robot, because that's what the Sentinels are. Even when Capcom took creative license to make their fighting game Sentinels, big giant purple robot. It's not hard to mess up. In the future, the first thing they did was mess them up by making them overpowered. There's a reason for that, and I won't spoil it, but that reason doesn't cover why they are able to adapt so quickly and do all this stupid stuff and make the X-Men look like chumps until Kitty can time machine everyone out of away, which is another thing. Kitty didn't have those powers. Where did they come from? But as long as she has an okay, it's like the show called Code Lyoko where they had a time machine where they always reset the past in the first season and get out of trouble without dying. That's how bad they're getting punked by these Sentinels, which are completely overpowered. I don't get it. And in the comics, it's not impossible to have characters like that. There's Bastion, and then there's Nimrod, and then there's Master Mold. But every Sentinel's like that. It makes them boring and overpowered.
Future Sentinels are the Borg. Let's just say that.
Well, even the Borg were just these big, giant monsters. I mean, big, giant robots. They weren't special. They didn't have a cure-all for everything. Their shields, maybe. But if the Federation was clever enough, and they are, they found a ways past them. There's no way to fight something that's that adaptable. And it's kind of explained, but not really explained why they're that powerful. And really, I mean, and minor nitpicks. All the good stuff I said, it wasn't the best, but that's minor nitpicks. Those are my two things. The X-Men, especially the future X-Men, look weak overall, and the Sentinels were way too overpowered for little to no characterization.
All right, and Blue.
Well, I actually found that in terms of your opening comment on the things that you didn't like, I totally agree with, in the sense that here we're looking at the Sentinels, and again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but folks, when you see the movie, you're going to say right away that this is in agreement with what we noticed as well. These Sentinels honestly look like Barney's friends. I mean, they came out, they were purple, and they were shiny, and they were plasticky, and they looked like something that really would do very little to stop anything. I mean, the fact that Trask created them, that was his first time out, I agree. And then they said something about something going wrong with them when they first came out. They made a brief mention of it. Well, I could see why something went wrong, because something went wrong again. And honestly, even when they did start showing all that they could do, even back in that time, it wouldn't have stopped very much. I mean, it wasn't anything new in the way of technology for that day. Came out with, all right, Gatling guns on the arm. I mean, Gatling guns were out in the Civil War. Come on, folks. I mean, there was like nothing about that was even impressive. And
Flying them just makes them an easier target to shoot.
Yeah.
Shoot the giant flying thing.
Yeah. And, even a Gatling gun, Trask made mention that there's no metal in them at all, totally plastic. Even after Magneto did his little thing, the Gatling gun is definitely metal, and he didn't put that in there. Okay, we saw what he put in there. Gatling gun wasn't one. But that was just like, again, more of a nitpick, but it was still kind of, our expectation of these big, fearful, mutant killers should have been more fearful. They just really weren't. And then the future Sentinels, oh my gosh, they were really fearful. Those were the kind of things that make you, think of the Like when you were a little kid and, there was a boogeyman in your closet, that's what you thought of. That's what that kind of thing looked like. So, the contrast was clearly there between the then and the now. And yeah, Bronze is right. It was totally dark. It was too dark, I thought. But again, I liked what parts of it that I could pick out through all the darkness. I thought that their abilities seemed to be pretty awesome and pretty clever. Now, in terms of one of the things that stood out in my mind that I really didn't care for all that much, it's almost like that whole going back in time thing was kind of like the way they chose to do it was kind of similar to the Matrixy in my mind. It was kind of Matrixy. You got this person kind of like laying on this table or sitting in this chair, and they're kind of like their body's still here, but their mind's gone, and that whole thing, no, that just wasn't working for me. It's like that's been done. I kind of think that our powers were cool. Let's find another way to have got these people to go back, even if it was their mind just going back, okay, and to be in their past body. I think they could have found a little bit more of a creative way to demonstrate that somehow.
Especially since she didn't have those kind of powers to begin with.
Right.
But, it is what it is, so let's give our rating. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. You know what? Well, can you give us a brief dossier on the rating system again?
Okay, it's basically platinum pass of perfection, passed, it's okay, fail, epic fail.
Well, I was entertained. As a big X-Men fan, after everything I gotta say about it, the first movie was good for its time, but it holds up as pretty average. The second movie, William Stryker was a good villain, but that's not the villain anyone from the X-Men cartoon, who watched X-Men cartoon, or anyone who wanted a mutant as a villain was looking for. So that wasn't that great as a villain. The third movie, just type that in and find any nerd fanboy rage out about it. X-Men Origins, see The Last Stand. The Wolverine was good, and we did a review on that. I thought it was decent enough, but it didn't live up to its expectations either. But saying all that, I didn't see First Class. I missed First Class. But from what I've seen, this is probably the best X-Men movie I've ever seen. There's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it's spoilers, which I really can't say. But Dinklage, McAvoy, Jackman, Michael Fassbender, all the leads, Beast, Quicksilver, all the leads were fantastic in this movie. And the Sentinels were safety robots, but they were like the Dark Elves in the Lord of the Dark World. You didn't mind all that much because they were just the army that the superheroes had to stop. And I didn't mind that. And for all the wimpamification the future X-Men had to suffer, the special effects made them very awesome superheroes. And I liked it. So I wanted to be more impressed with this movie, but well, what the heck? I'm nice. I'll give it a pass.
All right. Blue?
Actually, well, I want to divide it up into the categories and stuff. Overall, I give the movie a pass. For the cast, though, I want to give that a platinum pass. I really was happy to see so many of the people in the movie that they were able to get. Even if they did just had a cameo, there were some of those folks that were in the, brief screen, screen time, but it was good to see. So, I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but it was a pleasant thing because I'm a big Game of Thrones fan to see Peter Dinklage. That was a real pleasure for me, along with just the overall cast. I like the whole Jennifer Lawrence's role, and so I really want to go the extra mile and give that portion a platinum. And I like the plot. I think overall the story was a good story, so that's a platinum. But the movie overall for me was a pass.
Well, people, I'm afraid I have to say this. I was ready to give the X-Men movie a DOA in general. From 1 to 3, 1 was fine, I enjoyed it. 2 was not as good. 3 was borderline lukewarm for me. And I was, said, as much as I love the X-Men, and I do. Right. They were my team back at the Saturday morning cartoon, right next to Spider-Man and Iron Man. The X-Men as a group and the cartoon was great. It showed me at a very young age how good writing doesn't need to be constrained by just being mere cartoons.
Yep.
But the movies, they were just a sad disappointment, a shell of the grand scheme of the 90s.
What about the Wolverine movies? And for those who want to know, I like the Origins movie despite what people thought of it. What did you think of the Wolverine movie?
I didn't mind the Wolverine Origin movie. In fact, it was pretty good. It gave me some background information on Wolverine because, like most people, we didn't know Wolverine's backstory because they deliberately kept it a mystery. But that's neither here nor there. What changed that for me before that is that when Blue actually forced me to watch the First Class, she challenged me, said, "How dare you call yourself an X-Men fan?" But I said, the movies are terrible now. This is not the movies. I hear it's good. You watch it. And I said, fine. So I did. And despite all my logic and reasoning, I love the heck out of it. It was a great movie. It made me think, this is the X-Men. And this is why I watched this movie today. And you know what? It didn't fail me. This one is another great one. If they continue on this line, X-Men will rise like the Phoenix Force and bring Marvel another millions and billions of dollars over time. What I cross my fingers one day to see is the vaunted X-Men versus Avengers movie.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be the ultimate movie right there, people. You say what you will about the comic, I believe in movie form it will be great. Especially if Thanos and, secret spoiler at the end here,
Yes.
would team up to cause that.
I think it's coming. I do believe it.
That's what I want to see. We'll see if it happens. So, because of this, it proved me wrong with First Class, and it continued to impress me. In this movie, it gets a platinum pass of perfection from the one true Omni Gamer. And that's about it, because it's getting really long with this review. So, this is the one true Omni Gamer Boss Bronze.
This is True Backlash.
And Blue.
Signing out, because Shark Tank is on and we're missing it. Bye.